Welcome all to High Strangeness in Alaska, the Bigfoot studies. This is a new series I'm going to do on Bigfoot. Later on, I'll do some more paranormal stuff. But being on the Alaska Triangle really opened up a lot of doors for me, especially getting to meet people. This week, I got to spend some time with Alex Petikoff, and he introduced me to Rob Roy Menzies. And I'm also introduced to Beans Baxter. I'm going to be hanging out with him and doing some poking around for Bigfoot, but really excited to get back into it. I'll have another video next week with Alex, but I went to the Bigfoot Art Gallery for the first time in Palmer, Alaska, and met Rob Roy Menzies. He's a huge personality, and if you visit Alaska in the South Central area, you gotta go to the shop. He's got nothing but stories. And what's crazy is people are always popping in the shop. When me and Alex met there at the store the other day, we went out on our investigation. There was another guy from a national TV show that popped in and hung out for hours just talking to Rob. So you never know who's going to come in the shop. There's always cool stories from across the state, especially, and across the country and the world. So he was talking about Area A, and we're going to roll that footage now, introduce you to the shop, and talk a little bit about Area A. All right, I'm here with Rob Roy Menzies at the Bigfoot Art Gallery, meeting him for the first time. Thanks to Alexander, and really having a great time checking everything out. And so you can talk a little bit about the shop, but I wanted to ask you about Area A because I've never heard of Area A before.
Wow, yeah, well, Area A is getting around a little bit. Well, the shop I bought 4 years ago, it was an established business. It was called Mad Matters. It's a custom matting and framing store. So I bought it, and the only thing I did was change the name to Bigfoot Art Gallery, and filled up the gallery with all kinds of Bigfoot swag and all kinds of fun stuff in here, and it was actually quite brilliant, I want to say. We all know Bigfoot's pretty hot these days.
Right.
But I still do the custom matting and framing, but now I've got the Bigfoot theme, which is a lot of fun, and I sell guitars too, which is what's cooler than Bigfoot and guitars. So.
Absolutely.
So you're asking about Area A.
Yeah, I heard you in one of Alex's videos talk about it, and I was just interested in what it is.
Well, it's a friend's cabin. It's located in the Kenai Peninsula, about 35 miles outside of Seward by boat.
Okay.
It's pretty remote. I mean, you got to have a boat or a float plane to get there.
Okay.
Very rarely are there anyone else out there but us.
Okay.
It's in a big cove, which is beautiful, keeps the weather at bay.
Mm-hmm.
You have seals, you have every kind of fish, you have salmon, you have a couple freshwater lakes that are up on the mountain. Anyway, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And the owner built the cabin, and the entire time he was building the cabin, he was having experiences that can only be really contributed to Bigfoot.
Right.
He scratched his head. He didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
About everything you can think of that Bigfoot is supposed to do has happened out there. From the tree knocking,
right.
Whoops, screams, rocks being thrown. Found some tracks out there. Very, very active place.
Okay.
And it does seem like they were there prior to him building the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those situations. I've only heard of this.
Right.
But when he approached me 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 5 years ago, I couldn't believe what he was telling me. And the audio recordings he had already recorded,
Right.
Impressive stuff. And being that his whole demeanor, he was not a Bigfoot person at all. Mm-hmm. He's a professional. He was in the military. You can tell this guy is pretty straight-laced. And he did not really understand what was going on out there. But 5 years later, we've got tons of audio and stories from there. We go out there every summer, and we usually have activity out there. Nobody has I should say nobody. We have not seen one out there, but we hear them quite frequently. We've got lots of recordings.
Is that where you took the mold of the footprint?
Yes, I've got some casts here that we've taken from there. There's just a plethora of activity that's happened out there. I've got recordings in the gallery too that have come from Area A. And Area A, we just called it Area A. We didn't know what to call it.
Right.
I think I came up with Area A. The owner didn't like it. He hated it. And then Beans Baxter, I think he added ape to it. So it was like Area Ape.
Nice.
So, oh, that's cool. So I think the owner likes it now. But we're always trying to think of something to call it, something cool to call it. But
right.
But besides that, it's a fun place. We go fishing. We do normal things. I mean, we definitely keep our ears peeled, but there's other animals out there too. There's bears.
Right.
There's wolves out there. There's lynx. Of course, the sea lions, seals, whales. It's just active everywhere.
Right.
But then there's that happening too, which
Yeah.
is really bizarre. And it's where I had my first experiences out there. So
Okay.
yeah, very, very interesting place. Love going out there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to learn more about it, and I'm going to cruise around the shop here and get some more images. But yeah, I'll have some more interviews with you later on. And
Sounds
I
good.
really appreciate you showing me around the place.
It's fun to have you. Thanks.
So Area A sounds very interesting. I think that Alaska is so unexplored. It's a hot spot in itself, but this Area A is in a region, overall, a little bit larger region on the Kenai Peninsula that I like to call Area 0. And the reason I say that is Area A is kind of around the peninsula in these fjords where there's just these jutting rocks and trees coming right off these cliffs. And you can't land a boat. I remember I took boat ride with my uncle through that passage, and he pointed at that area and he was like, look at that, no human can get there. You just can't do it. I mean, the only way would be by helicopter, and civilian helicopters don't have the fuel to go that far and drop somebody off on top of these rocks. So some of these areas are really hard to get to, and Area A kind of is in that area. You go wrap around the peninsula from that kind of south side, and you get into the Port Chatham, Chrome Bay area, and then farther on Seldovia and Halibut Cove, and some of the areas that I've done a lot of exploring and hunting in. So that whole area is very hard to get to. I find it very interesting that the brown bears stop at the head of the bay of Kachemak Bay. They do not come into that area where all the black bears are, and it doesn't make any sense. There's plentiful food, there's all kinds of salmon, berries as far as the eye can see, small game, very good place for a brown bear. Less humans, but for some reason the brown bear they're very rarely spotted in that area, and that's where all the Bigfoot, Sasquatch spottings are. So to me, that just checks a box. It makes a lot of sense to me. So please stop by the shop. I'm going to be doing more videos on this Area 0 and hopefully Area A at some point. But thanks for tuning in, and I'm going to try to do a weekly Sasquatch / paranormal video every week now with this series. So thanks for tuning in, guys. It's Chuke, your friend in the field.